All right, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something that surprisingly a lot of people don't know about, and I was part of this category before I started losing weight this last time around, and it's really going to be funny to think about because I'm someone who worked out for years, and I didn't apply this principle that anybody who has delved into fitness content would know about, and that's something called progressive overload, which there are different types of progressive overload. There's linear progression, there's rep range progressive overload, which is the one I prefer to use because the linear one is more so for when you're new. But anyways, when it comes to building muscle, you have to think about your muscles this way, right? Your muscles, they adapt to a stimulus. So let's say, for example, you can bench press 135 pounds and you can do it for 10, right? The first time you decide to do that, your muscle is going to adapt to the point where it can do that proficiently. If you continue to do the exact same thing every single week, once your muscle is adapted for it, it will stop adapting. So the logical thing to do from there is to increase the weight, increase the reps, or increase the sets to get another adaptation. When it comes to progressive overload, this is the idea of overloading the muscle over time progressively in order to essentially make it bigger and stronger. So with regards to hypertrophy specifically, because that's what I'm going to be focusing on a little more, there's a really simple method to progressive overload that if you want to grow your muscles, you're going to want to kind of follow. This is a method that I like. So you'll notice that there are a lot of people that will say, oh, I do bench press in the 5 to 8 rep range, or I do bicep curls in the 12 to 15 rep range. And what you're going to do with these rep ranges is use them as a sort of guide in order to track your progression. So you're going to need to track your workouts. This is another thing. I have a notebook where I track all the reps and sets that I do each week, and I try to improve them from there. You're always wanting to get better each time you train. So you want to get more reps than the previous time, or more sets, which we'll talk about sets in a minute because you can't just increase the sets to infinity, or load. So let's say, and I'm going to use my bench press for example. Let's say I'm bench pressing 200 pounds for sets of 5 to 8. Week 1, I do 7 reps, 7 reps, and 7 reps, right? Then week 2, I do 8 reps, 7 reps, 7 reps. Week 3, I do 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps. So depending on how you want to do it, some people will say the first 2 sets will count towards your overload. Some people will say all the sets, whatever. When you get your sets to the top of that range, so in this case, 5 to 8 reps, so 8, that's when you're going to add a little bit of weight, so 5 pounds. So let's say I do my set of bench press on 200 for 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps. The next week, I'm going to do 205. And now because it's heavier, I'm probably not going to be able to do 8 reps again. So maybe I'm only able to do 6 reps, and then 6 reps, and then 5 reps. Okay, next week, I'm going to try to get more on each set. So let's say I get 7, but then I can only get 6 and 5 again. Then you just keep going up until you can get 8, 8, and 8, or just your first 2 sets, 8. Again, it's kind of like a thing that you can sort of play around with based on your preferences. Then you're going to overload again, 5 pounds from there. Different exercises, obviously the overloads are going to feel a little different. The rep ranges are going to feel a little different. So if you're doing bicep curls in the 12 to 15 rep range, you're going for 15, 15, 15. Same idea. If you're doing like something like lateral raises, you might want to raise it only by 2.5 because 5 pounds is quite a big difference when it comes to small muscles. But that's the basic gist of it. If you're brand new to the gym and you still have like those like newbie gains, you could also do linear progression, which is basically, let's say you start out with, let's just go to the extreme. Just start out benching the bar only, right? You're doing 3 sets of, let's say 8 to 12 reps. You start out with 45 pounds, you do 12, 12, 12. Next week, you're going to add 5, and you're just going to add 5 every week no matter what until you're at the bottom of that rep range, so 8. So even if you can only get 11 or 10 or 9, you're still going to keep increasing it until you're at the bottom of the rep range, and then you could do rep range overload from there. Every week, you're not always going to be able to beat what you did the week before. That's okay, but if it happens many times in a row where you're actually stagnating or going back, it means that there's a couple of things. One, you might need to deload, which is basically where you take off half the weight and you do a week of just like basically really easy lifting. Number two, you might not be eating enough protein. You might not be eating enough in general, or you might be in too much of a calorie deficit if you're cutting. Or not, yeah, those are the main ones. If those aren't really an issue and you're still having trouble progressing, you could add an extra set or 2 sets to the exercises you're trying to progress right before a deload. That might help as well. But basically, like I said, rep range overload is probably like my bread and butter when it comes to weightlifting. Now, I know I'm not the jackest guy in the room. I lost 112 pounds, but I've been gaining muscle this whole time that I've been cutting. And a lot of that's because I used to weightlift, but I never actually applied progressive overload in this way. I never tracked my workouts. I basically just kind of eyeball it and be like, oh, this looks challenging. Okay, let me do this. And it got me a long way. I got my bench pretty high doing that, but this time I'm playing it more smart and I'm being more thoughtful with my routine. And yeah, so anyways, make sure you're tracking your progress and make sure you're trying to essentially get better every single time you're in the gym. And as you get more experienced, you're not going to be able to go up in a linear fashion. You're going to kind of like go like this a little bit, and that's okay. Just try to keep improving, and yeah, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.